today's episode, I speak to Charles Reed about the best way to work with your intimate family member in the family business. We discuss the ups and downs, and Charles shares tips on how to make your relationship work with your business. Listen up to the rest of the conversation. Before we begin our conversation, here is a quick shout out to the pathologically curious. Check out the Maverick Paradox magazine. It's a digital magazine written by Mavericks for business owners and professionals. You can find the magazine at themaverickparadox.com. The magazine's aim is to provoke Maverick leadership everywhere. Welcome to the Maverick Paradox podcast, where we explore what it is to be a maverick and discover effective modes of leadership. I am Judith Germain, and my mission is to propel the maverick mindset into a world where character and integrity will ultimately have a higher premium than personality and bureaucracy. So thank you for joining me on this journey. If you would like to continue with me, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. And today our guest is Charles Reed. Hi, Charles.
Hi, Judith.
How are you doing? I'm
doing very well today. How about you?
I'm doing really well. You know what? I love it when I speak to Americans because you're so joyful when you're introducing yourself. It's just like, da-da!
Well, it's early in the morning here, so, we haven't had the day way down on us yet.
Oh, you know what? That explains it. So, Charles, tell the audience about you.
Well, I'm a Midwestern boy. I grew up in Iowa, went to high school. After high school, I joined the military. I was in the United States Marine Corps for 4 years, including 2 years overseas and a stint in Vietnam combat. I came back to the States, met and married my wife. She had 5 children when I married her. I claim insanity. But we were married for 46 years. Then finding that the public was not really high on military experience to translate to business, which is a mistake. I went and got my degrees, my bachelor's and my master's, became a certified public accountant, basically a chartered accountant for you Brits, and went to work for major corporations, minor corporations, did turnarounds. In my early 40s, I realized I was never going to run a major corporation because I didn't have the political skills. I was unwilling to stab people in the back and throw them off the ladder. So I said, if I'm going to run a company like my father did, I'm going to have to start my own. So 30 years ago, I started my own with my wife. Working with your wife, I thought was a normal thing to do because my parents worked together. It's not, but that's a whole nother story. And so I've been in business for 30 years. I just published my 4th book last year, the payroll book on U.S. payroll, 95,000 words, which is 30 years of experience distilled down. So been having a good time, having fun. We're a national scope firm. We just picked up one more state, so I think we're in 48 of the 50 states in the U.S. And do public speaking and writing and so on and so forth, and have a great staff and crew here. So we're having a good time working.
What's interesting, thanks for that. What's interesting is that you haven't stuck solely into the finances.
No.
You've broadened out what you do, haven't you?
Absolutely. I did a lot of that, a lot of different industries as a CPA and an MBA. And then in my business, we've continued to expand our scope of offerings as we find our clients need things. And it's, the whole idea with business is to provide a product or a service that your clients want. Yeah. So if they want something I can provide, I try and provide it.
So you said that you wanted to run the business like your dad. What was it?
My father had his own insurance consulting business.
Right.
He was there in the Midwest, and worked with school boards and companies and cities and so on, dealing with their insurance needs. And it was quite a nice little business. My parents lived nicely off of it. He didn't have the skills to grow it. He didn't want to. He did not work well with other people. I had the opportunity, of course, to go into business with him, and I couldn't work with him. So that's why I did other things. And I learned from that. I learned a lot of things watching him and his particular peculiarities, which kept him from becoming what he could have become. And that was always, well, it wasn't then, but it is now to me sad that he didn't fulfill his potential in some of those things, but that was his choice. That was his upbringing, his father, his war experience, and all those things. He preferred to keep it close to the chest. Different strokes for different folks. But running a business gives you freedom that working for somebody else doesn't. If I don't want to come in tomorrow, well, I don't want to come in on Monday, I don't have to. Now, the work doesn't go away, and I'm going to have to make it up someplace else. But that freedom of being an entrepreneur, of running your own business, of controlling your own destiny, that I learned from my father, because that's what he wanted. He just was unwilling to bring other people into the fold, and I am. So, it works. It worked for him. It worked for me. And I love the freedom of being an entrepreneur.
Yes, I can understand that. So how would other people learn to control their own destiny then?
That's a great question. Because entrepreneurship is not for everybody. No. There are people that prefer the security of that, 8 to 5 job, 5 days a week, guaranteed salary. I mean, as an entrepreneur, if money's short, I'm the one that doesn't get paid, not my staff. If I don't pay my staff, they leave. So it's an ability to take risk. If you don't have that risk-taking gene, for lack of better description, mindset, whatever, it's probably going to be a real tough road for you to be an entrepreneur. But if you have that and you're willing to put it all on the line, the rewards can be immense, both financially and mentally. You can make a very good living, and you can be free to do as you wish and dabble in other things. You can do all kinds of things at some point. Now, I was asked about, this is a real downside to it. I was asked about work-life balance in a panel the other day, and I just cracked up. I started laughing. For an entrepreneur, there is no work-life balance, at least in the beginning. Mm-hmm. It took me 20 years before I had a vacation. I didn't mind, and neither did my wife, because we knew what we got into. So, it's in the beginning for an entrepreneur, it's all work. There is no work-life balance. There is no time off. There is no weekends at the beach. It's work, and it's work, and it's work, and it's work, and it's work. So if you can't handle that, and you can handle the independence, and you can handle making your own decisions all the time, and the old saw, it's lonely at the top, is extremely true, because those decisions are yours and yours alone to make. And there'll be many a sleepless night as you ponder over those decisions and try and make the best possible ones. So it's not for everybody, but if you've got the ability to take risks, study, learn, read books about entrepreneurs, see what they've done, take classes, take courses, learn all you can about it, and it can be a real blast.
That is true. So what has it been like working with your wife for so long? Because so many people struggle to do that, work with a family member, that is.
Well, my wife passed away 6 years ago, but we were married for 45 years. We worked together for a number of years once I started the business. And she was integral to making it work and allowing me to do the things I needed to do and support me and be part of it. But I had to break her of an extremely bad habit. We'd work all day, get home, have dinner, get ready for bed. We'd get into bed, and she would have one more thing to get off of her mind. One more work problem that she wanted to dump on me. Then she'd roll over and go to sleep. And I'd sit there worrying about it until 2 a.m. until I was finally so tired I went to sleep myself. After a year of that, we finally made an agreement. After dinner, we're not going to discuss business.
You know what? I'm really glad you said that, because I work with a number of couples in business, and the common thing is boundaries. When are they, especially now with them working from home?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think it's kind of compounded the issue. So it's a case of they're always working,
mm-hmm.
and home is not the refuge it once was, because it's also the workspace.
Right.
So any tips or guidance for listeners out there that might be in the same situation?
Well, try and set up some boundaries, and do things with your wife. Obviously, I'm a man, so it's the wife. Take her flowers, buy her dinner occasionally, cook for her occasionally, do the laundry occasionally, do things for her. Might not be in the partnership arrangement, might not be your chore, but do it just occasionally. Make her feel good. Tell her she's beautiful. Tell her she's sexy. Tell her you love her. I had somebody, I kissed my wife every time we parted in public, and somebody said something to me about displays of public affection. I mean, this was just a kiss. Okay. Yeah. And I looked at the person and I said, get out of my life. Go to hell. Get away from me. You're an idiot. I told my wife I loved her every day, repeatedly. And I did. I love my wife. I miss her dearly. So you can't treat her as an employee. You've got to treat her as a partner. Yeah. Even if in my business, I was the, she did the clerical side. She kept the office. She got the mail out. She got the mail in. She processed the reports. She did this kind of thing. I was the one talking to clients and doing the work. Okay. But I quickly realized that didn't make me better. Okay. That may have made me the boss, but in a marriage, it's a partnership. And if you think you're the boss, you're going to have a problem. Okay.
I think that's really interesting, because in the work domain, one partner is the boss often of the other.
Sure.
But then when you're at home, it's equal. And I suppose it's very difficult that you don't get those relationships confused. How did you manage not to do that?
I agree fully. Your marriage is one thing, your business is another. If you work together, you're going to mix the two, but you've got to make time, and you've got to understand that, you're the boss of the office. When you get home, if you're a man, you're no longer the boss. Okay.
It sounds like you're saying if you're the woman, you still are the boss. That's what you seem to be intimating.
Absolutely. Okay. My wife ran the house and ran me for 45 years. Okay. Why she put up with me sometimes, I'm not sure, but we had a good marriage. It wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a good marriage.
That sounds good. I think it's something that's missed so often, which is why I'm keen to explore that. How do family work together? I suppose it's probably easier, husband and wife, partners, than it is, I don't know, brother and sister, maybe, or brother-in-law.
Well, the whole problem with the husband and wife is you're an intimate partnership. I mean, we can't separate out the intimacy that a couple shares. Okay. And you've got to keep your business out of that. Now, with a brother, sister, brother-in-law, father, son, whatever, there's not that level of intimacy. And I think that's what makes it more likely to succeed and more likely to fail because of that. And if you can't keep it separate, the last thing your wife wants to do is be treated as a business asset at home in bed. Okay. That's just not going to work. If you treat her like that at home, it's just another employee. You're not going to have a wife.
Yeah.
Or a business partner.
So have you ever had those situations where you've had arguments at home and then you've gone into work together?
Yes, of course.
And how did you manage to keep your employees knowing from you that you two were angry with each other? Or
well, we didn't.
That's so honest. I love it.
Oh, come on. I mean, she's giving me the silent treatment. You don't think they noticed that in the first 10 minutes?
So how did you ease it over so it didn't become like difficult for the employees to work with you two?
Well, we never made them take sides. Okay. The argument was between her and me. It wasn't between our picked employee and their picked employee. No, we refused to do that. It was an argument between her and me, and we'd settle it. Silent treatment with Ruth would last about 2 days, as long as I didn't start laughing. If I started laughing, it lasted another 3 or 4 days. So I would just put up with it until she said something a day or two later, and then we just resume conversing and just go on. But there's times I gave in. Absolutely. If it was very important to her, we'd do it her way. If it was very important to me, we'd do it my way. The only problems we had once, the first 20 years of marriage is tough. Okay. You're learning each other. But after that, the only arguments, because we solved most of them, and sometimes we get into them and start laughing because we'd already had that one and know who won, normally her. But after that, after 20 years, it was only things that were very important to both of us, and we both wanted to have happen. So those things could be talked out once we had a good relationship. I think too many people give up on marriage too quickly because you don't learn the ins and outs of another person in 2 years or 4 years. I think our love really deepened somewhere between 20 and 25 years of marriage. Right. We no longer had to have conversations on many things. We knew we could finish each other's sentences. When I would shrug my shoulders or turn my head, or she would, we would know what the other one was thinking. And that made life much more comfortable.
So you turned it into an advantage as opposed to a disadvantage.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we didn't start the business until we'd been married for almost 20. We'd been married for 20 years. Okay. So we really had an understanding of each other. It doesn't mean we still didn't fight at business in the beginning because it was a new experience for both of us. And we were learning our roles in it. The best thing for me was everybody loved Ruth. People who she couldn't stand thought of her as their best friend. Okay. So with clients, she was wonderful. They all loved her, which made my life easier because I'm not that lovable of a person. Why Ruth put up with me for 45 years still amazes me.
I think you said something really key though, isn't it? That you knew what the roles were. So you've said it's recognizing that an intimate relationship is an intimate relationship, knowing what the boundaries are, knowing who has what role, so you don't sort of contradict. And I have seen situations before where often it's not necessarily a marriage, more to do with a relationship that has become intimate in the workplace. And then you can, and it's so immediate because all of a sudden, all these kind of the long looks and, and all this kind of stuff. And then if there's issues, then you have like this department head not talking to that department head, and it becomes a problem because they're not behaving in the way that you guys were. In an adult relationship, they've become some sort of parent-child thing.
Yeah, I've only seen the boss being intimate with employees' work one time, and it didn't work for him because he didn't get promoted. And it was a restaurant manager, and he basically slept with any waitress that would sleep with him. So he didn't play any favorites. I mean, at one point in time, he had one lady and all three of her daughters.
Oh, man.
So it was crazy.
It's not a good working place, though.
Well, it worked for him. It's the only time I've ever seen it work. Tony really was successful with it. But because of that, even though he ran a great restaurant and it was well run and successful, the company he was working for refused to promote him because of it. So it cost him and his wife personally. I couldn't do that.
So, yes, working relationships can be problematic at times.
At times.
But then again, then you're not the only one who's made it work. So I think probably the difference would be is that you're the one in charge, I guess.
It is. I mean, I've seen couples work together on a staff level, but they're usually in different areas and different responsibilities. To me, it's like partnerships. And I did accounting and small business consulting for many years. I've only seen one partnership endure, business partnership. And there's two guys, and one guy is the sales guy and one guy is the techie guy. And their responsibilities really don't overlap. The sales guy lets the techie guy handle all the books, the taxes, the filings, everything else. And the sales guy handles all the sales contacts, all that kind of stuff, all the marketing, everything. And so they don't overlap. And it's the overlap that causes discord. So
actually, that's a really good point. I think you're right there.
That's why the boundaries, if you're working with your wife or anybody, are so important. Is everybody stays in their lane, and if you stay in your lane, you're not having fender benders. Okay, so the boundaries are important, and you've got to work those out, and you've got to agree to them. You can't force them. I couldn't force my wife to not do this or to do that. It had to be compromise. Okay, and so for us, we compromised until we had good, firm boundaries, and it worked. In the partnership that I'm talking about, they were lucky. Their particular personalities worked, and they stay in their lanes, and they've been clients of mine for 30 years. Mm-hmm. I've never seen a partnership last that long.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's that understanding what each person brings and understanding what is and isn't acceptable. And arguing in front of the staff isn't acceptable. And
they both know they need each other.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do what the other one does. So it works for them. So that's kind of how it worked for Ruth and me.
Brilliant. I think this is probably a good place to stop. Is there anything that you would like to add on that dimension of intimate partnerships at work that I haven't asked you about?
No, I think we're good.
Excellent. Well, will you come back if I decide to talk to you about something different? Would you come back again?
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to, Judith.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you once again for tuning into the Maverick Paradox podcast. I hope you have enjoyed listening to my conversation with Charles as much as I enjoyed having it. At the Maverick Paradox, we improve your impact and influence by enabling you to effectively strategize, innovate, and execute. To find out more, contact us at judith@maverickparadox.com. Thank you.
If you are pathologically curious and would love to find out more about the Maverick Paradox, then please subscribe to this podcast on one of the popular podcast platforms. Alternatively, you could explore our resources on Mavericks at maverickparadox.com or read the Maverick Paradox magazine. We publish frequently each week. If you subscribe, you will get our monthly newsletter. And let's not forget my book, The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders. For those that love a good discussion, you could apply to join our exclusive Facebook group. Finally, if you would like to work with us or are interested in the Maverick at work, check out maverickparadox.co.uk.